Hello. I figured I'd make a quick video here. Somebody requested I do one on changing the oil or basic oil change, and that's an easy one right now because I really don't have to do much. And it's beginning of December here in Portland, and it's chilly and it's not rainy today, so I figured I'd come out and do a little one on changing the oil. Okay, first of all, the oil system in the Vanagon is no problem. There's nothing out of the ordinary with it. There's a couple anomalies, and I'll show you point those out. But other than that, it's basically pretty simple. And all my videos come from a point of view where you know a little bit about cars and you can turn a wrench and stuff, and you know how to change oil. So this is basic stuff. Drain the oil, take off the filter, replace the filter, put new oil in. Simple as that. Bentley. If you don't have one of these, you need to get one, even if you have to pay $100 on eBay. And this one specifically, don't get a newer one because they don't tell you much. This one just for the air cooled. But well, first of all, on the back page, this tells you the capacities. Where is it? Engine lube system right here for the air cooled. Capacity is 3.5 liters. Here, let me get my glasses here. I'm old. So the oil capacity is 3.7 US quarts, and that's with the filter. And without the filter, it's 3.2 US quarts. You don't have to change the filter every time you change the oil. We used to do it when I was younger, and nobody said much about it. Every third oil change, you change the oil, change the filter, change the oil, change the oil, change the filter, that type of deal. But do it it's your vehicle. Another thing too is the filter to use. Use a MAN filter or a Marl, or any German filter that has a check valve in it. Okay. This has hydraulic lifters in it, and if you ever leave it sit for a couple days or something, you go to start up and you'll hear them banging dun, 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 until they fill up with oil. Well, what a check valve does is when you stop the engine, it keeps the oil from backflowing, and it keeps all the oil where it was when you stop the engine. So that's that. Okay, another thing, if you get online, I'm not going to tell you what type of oil to use. Synthetic, regular. I always use just regular, dinosaur oil, and change the oil about every 4,000 miles. You can use synthetic, that's fine as far as brands. On the Samba.com, way back when I was the moderator, there was pages and pages of people arguing over oil, this and that, and saying and the oil system is not a problem in these vehicles. That and wheels and tires. They always, wanted to do pages and pages and pages on wheels and tires. But oil, like I said, I always use just regular oil. I think I used 20W50 in the summer and 15W50 in the winter. That's just the weight, how thick it is. You want a thinner oil in the winter and a thicker oil in the summer because heat. Additives, don't put anything other than oil in your crankcase, your oil adding. The one thing you can is this stuff, Marble's Mystery Oil. And that's just an oil itself, so you're not really doing stuff. You can put that in the gas tank and in the oil, and it will quiet down hydraulic lifters if you have a noisy one. That's basically where you start. But other stuff like Lucas and all that other stuff, don't bother. When I was younger, we used to put STP in it, and that don't hurt anything. It's just a thicker oil. But yeah, and there's no miracle. If you got a knocking rod or a hydraulic lifter that's bad, nothing's gonna fix it. If you got some sticky stuff, the mystery oil might fix it. That's another thing too. Hydraulic lifters. Well, I already went into that. I'm not gonna go into it big. Some people hate them. Some people love them. They weren't really a problem for me, but if you leave the vehicle sit for a while, they will drain down. And if you will notice it if you don't put a filter with a check valve on it, because every time you go to start it up, it'll clatter a little bit. and that's not good. You just don't. Um, it won't kill your vehicle or anything. It's just, you know, noise and banging and that kind of stuff is never a good thing. Um, Checking it, when I had this engine all pretty well intact, it did leak a little bit, and that's where most of the oil went. But after we go camping and stuff, I'd check it before we left and before we left the campsite. Maybe if I got gas, I'd check it. They make it easy, um, but it will burn a little bit if you're, you know, driving ways. Well, it depends on your engine, you know. I noticed it would burn a little bit. I don't know if it was leaking it. I don't know if it was burning it, but you know, it's good to keep it checked. And there's not much other things to do in this car. Not very many fluids, you know, brake fluid, oil, um, transmission. If you got like manual transmission like me, it's just transmission oil, and you really never have to check that. So don't worry about it. The Bentley has, I think, just one page. I took my paper out of there, but there's just one page on the oil system in this car, and that's why it's really not a problem unless you have a problem where you don't maintain it. I think the Bentley's just got a diagram of it in here. I can't find it. I tried to make it so here it is. The engine lubrication system, there's just one diagram of the stuff you need. And where it could be leaking, if you get a leak, there's gaskets. That's why this is an easy, the thing you really need is this Bentley, because these diagrams are, you know, really helpful when it comes to tracking down leaks and stuff like that. But that's it, the engine oil. And so now I'm going to the back and show you what's in the back and what you need to look out for. All right, I got my old butt under here to show you some stuff. When you change the oil, what you want to look for, what you want to do. What's what? Okay, a few things here. This right here, that's your oil drain plug. If I can put this here. It's the oil drain plug where the oil you drain from. Just don't cross thread it. You know, that's easy. This right here, this is the strainer. Inside of there is a mesh to catch foreign objects or whatever. You shouldn't have to mess with that. There is a gasket under there if you're leaking oil or whatever. It might be from here, but if you just got the van, you might want to take that out and see if there's anything in there, but you really shouldn't have to mess with that. Same with this over here. This is what's called the taco plate. I don't know why. I know there's a gasket under there. If it's not leaking, don't mess with it. This is an aftermarket. That's for the oil temperature sender I have. You might not have anything like this. This is for the aftermarket gauge and for temperature. Over here is your filter. Easy enough. Take it off, take it on. Don't cross-thread it, don't mess it up. The one caveat is this right here. Be careful if you're taking this apart and putting it back together. All these things thread into the block, and if you mess up the threads on this, you have to take the whole engine out and you need a new block. And I've seen people that done it and they found out the hard way. They've over-tightened this bolt right here, or they cross-threaded it, and you got all your oil will leak out. So you just make sure, if you take this out, you just be careful. Alright. Here is where you check the oil and where you put in the oil. And for convenience, this pulls out. It's an oily mess, of course. That's where you fill the oil when you're, let's say, on a road trip or whatever. Now your dipstick here. Let me show you one thing. Over here on the back, let's send the camera flying out. Over here, you should have a little rubber thing about up to here. mine's broken. Another thing is what this is supposed to be. If you see the two notches here, that's supposed to be a quart. Down below that is your quart low. But I like to keep mine right in the center here. I haven't cleaned it off, but dipstick, it's not very accurate. It's not scientific or anything, but you want to keep it between those two lines. You do not want to overfill. It's one thing you don't want to do. If you do overfill it, you should drain some out. But like I said, I always tried to keep mine on the half there. Goes back in. Okay, so that's basically the oil system. One thing you might I might add too is like the oil pressure light up in the panel, or the oil. It just is the oil light. Now, if that flickers, check your oil. That usually means that you're running low, or your oil pressure, even worse, oil pressure's messing up. Or if that light comes on, you're driving, all of a sudden that light comes on, pull over the side of the road and check your oil. You never know when something catastrophic might happen. And that's a dummy light up there. They call it that because you don't rely on it, but it does work. So, like I said, if something like that happens to the light up there, always check your oil. Always make sure you didn't all of a sudden lose it some strange way. But that's the oil system in the air-cooled Vanagon. It's a simple system. Just keep it maintained. You won't have really any problems with it. The little caveats I told you about underneath are really the only things you got to worry about. What oil to use? You decide that. Synthetic, change in intervals. I used to do it 3,000 or 4,000, like I said. If you synthetic, they say up to 10,000. That's all your call. When I was younger, they used to tell me about oil is just make sure it's slippery, and that's about it. Change oil, yeah, yeah.